All right, now take me through, you get here, you go through the first round, you go through the semis, like, that was pretty simple, smooth for you going through those. Then you get to the final, for anyone that doesn't know what it's like, leading up to you're warming up and then getting in the call room for an Olympic final, describe that a little bit and what you were feeling, what the vibes were in there, thoughts, and just how you were trying to stay locked in and honed in on your job at hand.
Yeah, it's one of the most, I don't know, maybe anxiety inducing environments is that call room, especially at a major championship. I mean, there's the same smells there's the speed cream that a lot of athletes rub on themselves that has this very distinct smell that I always just associate with the call room. And it's all these senses that you've had before in call rooms, but you realize that this is at the Olympics and the Olympic final, and everyone's in there, and all these guys that are just so dominant on the track are in this same room together and cooped up, and in these you're putting your backpack in a little box, and everyone's doing the same little formalities with their safety pins. And it shows that everyone's human in there, which is a kind of a good takeaway from it. But at the same time, you're around all your competitors, and it's about to go down, and this race has the chance to change your life. And so all of those thoughts are just ridiculous and circulating, at least in my head, and I'm sure everyone else is thinking about whatever, but it's a lot, and it's tough to get through those feelings and realize that you're gonna have to exert the most energy you've ever done over 3.5 minutes. It's just a lot to do, and the mental side of it is so huge.
Now, you get out of the call room, you're on the line, guns going off, Jakob, takes it out, hard, which I think a lot of people expected to happen. Maybe you could just take me through lap by lap, what you're thinking, where you're at, what the strategy was as the race progressed.
Yeah, pretty much the game plan was just be there with 200 to go. And that's a tall task for how these races are run now. It's one thing to do it when it's a sit and kick race, but that doesn't seem to happen at championships anymore. And so, yeah, the goal is just keep closing those gaps. Don't let anything open up. And yeah, 54 was very jarring. I think everyone was kind of freaking out, and everyone was excited and fired up too. But as the race proved, you can't run that pace for that long. And the fact that the best guys in the world are against the ropes, just such a crazy race. Everyone was just pushed to their limit, and just the fact that, I've watched the race back a couple times now, and just so happy that I made the decisions to go when I did. It seemed like every little opportunity that was there, I took it, and I kept going to the front, kept finding my way, not to the very front, but always found my way back to medal contention. And it seemed like, the players were falling as the race unfolded. People were starting to feel that pace, and it was just so evident. And then just being there with 200 to go, it was just a surreal feeling. And I don't know if I'll ever experience something like that again, but I knew I was on the cusp of something so special. Even just getting a medal in that would be so special, and just the fact that it played out how it did was just incredible.
Yeah, like you mentioned, I mean, you were within striking distance basically that whole time that race, and then if I can remember correctly, 300 to go is kind of when you started to make a move on the outside a bit and get up there, and then closer to Jakob and stuff like that. And then what I really want to talk about is that 100, which I'm sure people have, that final 100 that people have asked you, because you try to pass Jakob on the inside, doesn't work the first time, but so you say, hey, I'm going to try this again, and this time it works. I feel like, a lot of people, if it doesn't work the first time, they probably wouldn't try it again. So when that happens, what motivated you to be the hell with it, let's try this again and try to pass on the inside?
Yeah, I've said this in, previous interviews I've done, but, actually, in the stadium, the media in the stadium after the fact, someone was asking me, how did you know it was going to open up? And I didn't realize that I had passed on the inside, really. I legitimately kind of blacked out that moment in the race. Obviously, I was there and present, but I've just been saying it feels like it was instincts. And I've seen the video from an aerial angle of the finish, which I thought was really interesting because I try to go inside. I see Ingebrigtsen paying attention to Kerr, and that's like a little bit in my head, and there's like a split second I think about that in the race. I'm like, oh, he's paying attention to him. This inside's about to open up, and then he's smart enough to close that down. But it's also natural, it seems like a lot of the time, to drift out when you're in first, like where Jakob was, and that's exactly what happened. But from this aerial footage, I saw myself start to move to the middle of the lane after it closed off, and then I saw him drift again and immediately make the decision to attack that inside, because I knew at that point I had to make the decision. But when it opened up again, I knew I was going to win, because I just knew what gears I had left.
Then you cross the finish line first. Yared crosses in bronze position as well. Like, this is the first time since 1912 that 2 American men have made the podium in the men's 1500. Like, that's over 100 years, which is crazy to think about. Like, and then obviously the first gold medalist from the U.S. in the event since Matt Sutrowitz in 2016. Like, kind of reflecting on all that history and how much this moment meant. Like, what do you think that means? And like also what it means for U.S. distance running too, probably.
Yeah, it's been insane just what U.S. distance has done already, starting with Grant Fisher, and then moving on to our 15, where we got 2 medals, which is kind of, since 1912, that's pretty much unheard of for American middle distance running. And then last night, like Kenneth Rooks doing like what most people probably thought was unthinkable, but I think it's just showing like where the U.S. is at with training and racing at middle distance and distance. And now I don't know what's going to happen in the 800, but we have some special runners in there, obviously. So it's going to be ridiculous. And I'm also just like honored to hold up kind of our end of the bargain, where the sprints and the field is always so dominant for the U.S. It's kind of like, if you look at the whole picture of it, the distance and middle distance hasn't always been there for the U.S. And now the fact that we can lift that up is really special.
And then just going forward, like, you have, I'm sure, Diamond League stuff coming up and stuff like that. Like, now that the Olympics is over, like, what's the focus now?
Yeah, I'm still trying to figure out the focus, but, I know I've peaked when I needed to and timed the season perfectly. And so it's kind of, I'm probably going to do some Diamond Leagues after this, but I haven't really had any time with my coach to talk through it, and still trying to figure out this season at least what I want to do. And I feel like I don't need to do anything, but it's kind of what I want to do at this point.
Then lastly, okay, this is kind of a fun question, or maybe fun. I don't know if you've seen, but Shannon Sharp of ESPN First Take has said that he was going to give, he offered Noah Lyles like $25,000 if he won gold, same to Sha'Carri, all that. Hey, you just won gold in like the men's 15. Are you going to get that $25K?
I saw that, and I was wondering that myself. That's what I mean by there's so many byproducts of this, where I'm like, oh yeah, I saw. So I might have to send out a tweet or something and just kind of poke that, because he promised it and he's got the wallet for it. So
yeah, I think you should tweet at him for sure.
I think so too.
Well, again, congrats, Cole. I know, it was just great to see that, and we appreciate all your time and hope you have some time to celebrate this as well.
Yeah, thank you very much. Appreciate it.